Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you ignored every red flag, every whispered warning, and every nagging doubt, only to find out later that the person you trusted most was hiding a life-shattering secret? That's where my story begins, and believe me, what I uncovered didn't just break my heart. It changed my entire view of love, loyalty, and betrayal. When I first met Ethan, he wasn't the type of guy people expected me to fall for. He was charming in an understated way, quiet confidence, easy smile, the kind of guy who made you feel safe just by standing next to you. My friends told me he was too good to be true, but I laughed it off. Don't we all dream of finding someone who feels too perfect? Isn't that what love stories are supposed to be about? At first, everything was exactly that, a dream. Long late-night calls, little notes he'd slip into my bag, spontaneous road trips that left us with inside jokes only we understood. He had this way of making ordinary days feel magical. For once in my life, I felt chosen. Special. Loved in the kind of way people write poems about. But here's the part one didn't see coming. Behind his soft words and careful gestures, there was another side to Ethan. A side he kept hidden so well that it took me months to even catch the first crack in the mask. Looking back, I realized there were signs all along. The sudden mood changes. The mysterious late-night work calls. The moments where his phone seemed glued to him, even in the bathroom. Still, I brushed it off. After all, don't all relationships have small secrets? Here's the thing though, sometimes small secrets grow into devastating betrayals. And the worst part? The truth rarely comes out when you're ready for it. It comes crashing down at the exact moment you feel safest. I remember one evening so clearly it still plays in my head like a movie. We were out at a cozy little cafe, laughing over shared desserts. He looked at me with those eyes that always made me melt. And he told me he had never felt this way about anyone. And I believed him. I wanted to believe him. But just hours later, a single notification on his phone would start to unravel everything I thought I knew. It was just one message. Harmless at first glance. But sometimes, one sentence is all it takes to shatter a world you thought was unbreakable. If you want to see how this shocking story ends, don't forget to subscribe. What I'm about to share will leave you questioning whether you can ever truly know the person you love. Because the message I saw wasn't from a coworker, or a family member, or even a friend. It was from someone I never expected. And what it revealed made me realize my love story was never what it seemed. You know how people say, trust is like glass, once it's cracked, it's never the same again? That's exactly how it felt the moment I saw that message flash across Ethan's screen. Just one sentence, lit up on his phone, was enough to make my stomach twist and my hands go cold. The message read, "Last night was unforgettable. When can we do it again?" At first, I froze. My brain scrambled to make excuses. Maybe it was a joke? Maybe it was some work friend being playful? But deep down, I knew. No coworker sends that kind of text at midnight with a heart emoji. My hands shook as I glanced at Ethan, who was still laughing at something on the cafe's chalkboard menu, like nothing had happened. Like my entire world hadn't just tilted sideways. I didn't say anything right away. I wanted to. God, I wanted to throw the phone at him and demand answers. But something in me whispered to wait. To watch. To collect pieces of the puzzle before confronting him. And that's when paranoia crept in. Every vibration of his phone, every sudden smile, every late-night meeting became fuel to the fire burning in my chest. Have you ever felt that gnawing pit in your stomach, the one that tells you something is horribly wrong even when you can't prove it? That was me. Pretending to be fine, forcing a smile. While inside, I was drowning in suspicion. But then came the dilemma, do I confront him and risk hearing the truth I wasn't ready for? Or do I hold on to the fantasy a little longer? What would you do if the person you loved more than anyone else might be lying to your face? I chose silence. For now. Because a part of me needed to be wrong. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I was just scared of losing something that finally felt like forever. But forever doesn't keep secrets. And Ethan's secrets were only just beginning to surface. A week later, I decided to test him. Nothing big, just a small experiment. I asked him to borrow his phone to order food while mine was charging. For a split second, I saw panic flash in his eyes. It was quick, almost invisible, but it was there. And in that split second, my heart broke a little more. He handed me the phone unlocked. But I noticed something odd. His messaging app had been cleared. No conversations. No history. Like someone had taken a giant eraser to his life outside of me. That was when I realized the truth. Ethan wasn't just hiding something. He was hiding someone. And the more I thought about that midnight message, the more I needed to know who she was. But here's the twist: I wouldn't find out from Ethan. The truth would come crashing into my life from somewhere I never expected. Because sometimes, betrayal doesn't just knock on your door, it breaks it down when you least expect it. Have you ever had a truth you were desperate to know, but terrified to uncover? That's exactly where I was. Every part of me screamed to dig deeper. But another part whispered, what if knowing breaks you completely? Still, curiosity is cruel. It doesn't let go once it sinks its claws into you. So, one night, when Ethan hopped in the shower and left his phone charging on the dresser, I felt my pulse spike. My hands were sweating, my chest pounding so hard it was almost loud enough to give me away. I knew it was wrong. I knew I was crossing a line. But hadn't he already crossed one first? I picked up the phone. And that's when my worst fears started to unravel. His call logs weren't just suspicious, they were damning. Frequent late-night calls to a single number. Hours-long conversations that ended around 2 or 3 a.m. The name was saved simply as A. No emojis. No last name. Just that letter. At first, I thought maybe it was a work contact. Maybe I was still clinging to hope. But then I noticed something else. The calls were always made on nights when he told me he was working late or helping a friend. It wasn't just a coincidence. It was a pattern. And here's the worst part: while I was scrolling, I saw a text come in from that same number. Just 4 words. She doesn't suspect anything. Tell me, how do you breathe after reading something like that? Because in that moment, I swear the air was sucked out of my lungs. My knees buckled, and I had to sit down before I collapsed. But then the fear turned to rage. Who is this, A? What did they know about me? About us? And how long had I been played for a fool? When Ethan walked out of the shower, towel around his waist, humming like life was normal, I felt my face flush with anger. But I forced a smile. I put his phone down. And I said nothing. Not yet. Because now, it wasn't about doubt. It wasn't about paranoia. It was about evidence. About catching him in the act so he couldn't deny it. But the silence ate me alive. Nights became torture. My mind replayed that text again and again. She doesn't suspect anything. What would you do in my shoes? Would you confront him with what you saw? Or would you wait, risking more pain, just to see how deep the betrayal went? I chose to wait. But waiting came with a cost. Because the next piece of this puzzle wouldn't come from Ethan at all. It would come from someone I trusted even less. And that person was about to shatter my world with a single sentence. It happened on a random Tuesday, the kind of day that usually slips by unnoticed. I was at my desk at work, half distracted, half replaying every suspicious thing Ethan had ever done. Then, my phone buzzed with a notification. It was from my cousin Anna. Now, Anna and I weren't super close, but we talked enough. She was blunt, too blunt sometimes, and never sugarcoated her words. Her message read, "I need to tell you something. But promise me you won't freak out." Tell me, how is anyone supposed to not freak out after reading that? My hands trembled as I typed back, "What is it?" There was a long pause. And then, the message came in. "I saw Ethan last night. He wasn't alone." I swear, my whole body went cold. My stomach dropped. And my heart slammed in my chest so hard it hurt. For a second, I couldn't even process the words. I typed back furiously, "What do you mean? Who is he with? Are you sure?" Her reply was like a knife straight through me. A woman. I didn't recognize her. They were laughing, touching. It wasn't innocent. I stared at the screen in shock. My worst fear, confirmed not by my paranoia, not by a random hunch, but by someone I knew wouldn't lie to me. Still, a part of me resisted. Maybe she misunderstood. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Isn't that what we tell ourselves when we're desperate for hope? So, I called her. And when she picked up, Anna's voice was sharp but steady. She said, "Look, I know you love him, but you need to stop pretending. I saw him with my own eyes. You deserve to know." Her certainty broke something in me. I wanted to cry, scream, throw my phone across the room, but instead, I went silent. Because silence was safer than letting the truth shatter me completely. When I got home that night, Ethan greeted me like nothing was wrong. He kissed my forehead, asked about my day, joked about ordering pizza. And the whole time, I was staring at him, wondering, how does someone lie so easily? How does someone look at you with love in their eyes while stabbing you in the back? That's when I realized something. I couldn't rely only on suspicion or Anna's word. If I was going to confront Ethan, I needed undeniable proof. Something he couldn't twist, couldn't explain away. But here's the twist, Anna wasn't done. She had one more detail to drop. And it made my blood run colder than anything before. Because the woman Ethan was with, she wasn't a stranger. And when Anna told me who she thought it might be, my entire world tilted on its axis. When Anna said the name, I thought my heart had stopped. It wasn't just anyone Ethan was with, it was someone from my inner circle. She whispered it over the phone, almost hesitant, like she knew the weight of it. I think it was Claire. Claire. My best friend since childhood. My sister in everything but blood. The one person I trusted with every secret, every heartbreak, every joy. Claire, who had held my hand through exams, breakups, even through my wedding planning. I froze, trying to make sense of it. "That's impossible," I whispered. Claire would never, but even as I said it, fragments of memory began to piece themselves together like shards of broken glass cutting into my mind. The way Claire had been a little too present lately. How she laughed at Ethan's dumb jokes louder than anyone else. How her hand sometimes lingered on his arm a second too long. Still, denial is powerful. I told Anna she must have been mistaken, that maybe the lighting was bad, that she couldn't be sure. But deep down, the seed of doubt had been planted. That night, lying in bed beside Ethan, I replayed every moment of the past few months. Claire's sudden interest in spending more time at our house. Ethan's quick glances at his phone when her name popped up. That one evening, I had walked into the kitchen and found them laughing, whispering. And then going quiet the second I entered. Am I crazy? I whispered to myself. Or have they both been playing me this whole time? What would you do in this moment? Would you confront them right away, or would you wait, watching quietly, until the truth revealed itself? I chose to wait. To pretend. To gather every ounce of evidence before I let my world explode. But the hardest part wasn't the waiting. It was the acting. Looking Claire in the eye during our coffee catch-ups, pretending I didn't notice how often she brought Ethan up in conversation. Smiling at Ethan when he wrapped his arms around me, pretending I didn't feel the coldness hidden behind his warmth. Every day, the act chipped away at me. It was exhausting, pretending not to notice. And then, the breaking point came. I picked up Ethan's phone one morning while he was showering, something I had never done before. My hands shook so badly I could barely swipe the screen. My chest ached, as though I already knew what I was about to find. There it was. Her name. Claire. Dozens of messages. And the worst part? The first one I opened wasn't even about hiding. It wasn't guilty, secretive, or ashamed. It was bold, shameless. Last night was perfect. I can't stop thinking about you. I dropped the phone like it burned me. Because suddenly, I didn't just suspect. I knew. My husband. My best friend. Two of the people I trusted most in this world. And they were betraying me together. But the messages didn't stop there. The deeper I scrolled, the darker it got. Because hidden in that conversation was something even more shocking than the affair itself. Something that would change everything about how I saw Ethan and Claire. And it left me with one burning question: had they only betrayed me with love, or with something far worse? I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened as though the walls of the room were closing in on me. The affair itself was enough to shatter me, but the more I scrolled through Ethan and Claire's messages, the more I realized this wasn't just about love or lust. There was something else. Something far more sinister. Buried between their flirty texts and late-night confessions, I found messages about me. About my habits, my fears, even my finances. Claire had written, "She's so clueless. You know she trusts me with everything. I've got her bank details for when she asked me to help pay her bills last month. She didn't even notice I saved them." And Ethan's reply chilled me to the bone. "Good. Keep it. We'll need it. Once this all blows up, she won't see it coming." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just an affair, it was a plot. A plan. My husband and my best friend weren't just betraying me emotionally, they were preparing to destroy me completely. I scrolled further, my hands trembling. They joked about me, mocked my routines, and even discussed the inheritance I had recently received from my late grandmother. "Once she's out of the way, we can finally start fresh," Claire had written. "Exactly. We just need her to keep trusting us a little longer," Ethan replied. I felt sick. My marriage, my friendship, my entire life, was it all just a setup? Was every laugh, every hug, every word of comfort Claire gave me just part of her act? Was Ethan's sudden tenderness after our fights nothing but a performance to keep me blind? I sat on the bed, clutching the phone, my body shaking. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone against the wall, to run straight to both of them and demand answers. But then another thought hit me. If they were plotting something bigger, if they were planning to drain me financially, emotionally, maybe even legally, then confronting them too soon would only make me the fool. I had to be smarter. I had to play their game. I copied the messages onto my laptop, saving every single one. I screenshotted the banking details Claire bragged about. I forwarded myself the threads where they mocked me. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was about survival. I remember sitting there, staring at the wall, numb, my mind racing. Questions spun wildly in my head. How long had they been plotting this? Did they ever actually care about me? Or was I just a stepping stone? How far were they willing to go to erase me from their lives? I felt like I was living inside a nightmare, one where the people closest to me had secretly become my enemies. And yet, amidst all the pain, a spark ignited inside me. Rage. Not the kind that makes you reckless, but the kind that sharpens you. They thought I was clueless. They thought I would never find out. They thought I would just walk blindly into their trap. But they were wrong. Very, very wrong. From that moment on, I wasn't just a betrayed wife or a heartbroken friend. I became something else. A watcher. A collector of truths. A woman preparing for the storm to break, but on my terms, not theirs. And deep down, I made myself a promise. If Ethan and Claire thought they could destroy me, then I would make sure the destruction they planned for me came crashing down on them instead. The only question was, how? Because to win against two people I once trusted with my life, I'd have to do the one thing I had never done before, become just as calculating as they were. The next morning, I woke up with a hollow pit in my stomach. For a split second. Before memory caught up, I thought it was just another ordinary day. Ethan was already in the kitchen, humming while he made coffee, like nothing was wrong. But I knew better now. Every movement of his felt rehearsed. Every smile looked like a mask. I sat at the table, forcing a casual tone. "Morning." He leaned down to kiss me, his lips brushing my cheek. It made my skin crawl. How many times had he kissed me after leaving Claire's bed? How many times had he lied with that same expression of calm? I wanted to scream at him right there. To tell him I knew everything. But I remembered my promise, don't confront too soon. I had to keep my composure. So instead, I smiled back. Smells good. Inside, my blood was boiling. Throughout the day, I replayed every memory in my head, filtering it through this new lens of betrayal. Every time Claire came over and helped with errands. Every late night Ethan said he was working late. Every time they laughed a little too hard at each other's jokes. The signs were all there. I had just been blind. But now I wasn't blind anymore. I was wide awake. I began testing them. First, with Claire. I called her casually. Hey, could you stop by later? I need some help with my grandmother's paperwork. She agreed instantly. Too eagerly. When she arrived, I left the room, accidentally, with my laptop screen open fake files I had created, labeled things like will update and bank statements, confidential. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw her glance at it, her curiosity burning. She didn't touch it while I was there. But I knew her type. The second I left the room, she'd try. And that's exactly what I wanted. Next, with Ethan. That night, I pretended to be distracted while on my phone. Oh, honey, I got this weird email about my bank account. Something about unusual activity. Do you think it's serious? His body stiffened just slightly, so subtle most wouldn't notice. But I caught it. He leaned in, overly calm. Probably just spam. Don't worry about it. But I saw it, the flicker of panic in his eyes. Confirmation. Both of them weren't just betraying me emotionally, they were actively trying to manipulate me, to take what was mine. And if they thought I was still the clueless, trusting woman I once was, they were about to learn just how wrong they were. That night, lying in bed next to Ethan, I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning. I couldn't sleep. Every breath he took beside me made me feel sick. But alongside the anger and heartbreak, a strange new feeling bubbled inside me. Control. For the first time, I wasn't reacting blindly. I wasn't just the victim anymore. I was gathering proof. Setting traps. Building my case. If they wanted to play games, then fine. I'd play too. Only I'd play smarter. I whispered to myself in the dark, so softly even Ethan couldn't hear it. You have no idea what's coming. It wasn't just about saving myself anymore. It wasn't even just about stopping them from stealing from me. It was about watching their smug confidence crack. Watching them realize the trap they had built for me was already closing in on them. And I couldn't deny it. For the first time since the nightmare began, I felt powerful. Like I was the one holding the match. And they were sitting in a room already drenched in gasoline. The next week, I escalated my plan. Playing dumb wasn't just about pretending anymore. It was about building a stage where Ethan and Claire could expose themselves without realizing it. First, I created distance. I told Ethan I was overwhelmed with work and needed more alone time. Instead of getting suspicious, he looked relieved. Which only confirmed my theory. More space for him meant more time with her. Perfect. I also reached out to Claire with a new excuse. Hey, could you take Ethan shopping? I'm swamped. And he's hopeless with groceries. Her pause was only a second long. And I caught it. That hesitation was laced with excitement, like a child caught with candy in their pocket, but eager to taste it anyway. When Ethan agreed, I smiled. You two have fun. Bring me back something sweet. The moment they left, my heart raced. Not with jealousy, but with anticipation. I had secretly tucked a tiny recording device in Ethan's car the night before. Every word, every sigh, every little slip-up would be mine. Later, when I replayed the audio, the evidence hit me like a punch to the gut. Claire's voice, soft but sharp. You think she suspects? Ethan's nervous laugh. No, she's clueless. She trusts us both too much. Then, silence, followed by the sound of lips meeting. My hand shook, but not with heartbreak, with fury. They were bold enough to talk about me like I was some oblivious fool, while sitting in my car, driving with my gas money, planning their little games. The audio ended with Ethan saying words I'll never forget, just a little longer. Once things line up, she won't even see it coming. It was like being stabbed. Not just once, but over and over. But here's the thing, when you've been stabbed enough, you stop bleeding. You harden. And that's what I did. The next morning, I played the part of the loving, clueless partner. I packed Ethan's lunch, kissed him goodbye, and told him to drive safe. Meanwhile, my mind was already plotting. I knew confrontation wasn't enough. If I just yelled at them, they'd deny, twist, maybe even turn people against me. They had charm, manipulation, and lies on their side. But I had truth. And patience. That night, I set the next trap. I invited both of them over for dinner, yes, together. The audacity made my stomach churn. But I knew it was necessary. Claire walked in with her usual fake smile, her perfume too strong, her laugh too rehearsed. Ethan followed behind, pretending everything was normal. We sat down, passing dishes, exchanging small talk. But I noticed the way their eyes flickered to each other, the unspoken connection simmering beneath the surface. They thought they were being careful. They thought I was still blind. Halfway through, I pretended to drop my fork. As I bent to pick it up, I accidentally knocked over my glass of water right onto the table. Oh no, I'm so clumsy, I laughed, rushing to grab napkins. While their eyes were on the spill, my hidden phone recorded everything. Their body language, their lingering glances, even the brush of their hands beneath the table when they thought I wasn't looking. Every piece of evidence was stacking up. By the end of dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom and stared at my reflection in the mirror. My pulse was racing, but my eyes, they were steady. This wasn't the face of a broken woman anymore. This was the face of someone who knew exactly what she was doing. And when I walked back out, sitting across from the two people who had betrayed me the most, I realized something chilling. They weren't just betrayers. They were puppets. And I was the one pulling the strings now. The days that followed felt like living inside a slow-burning movie where I already knew the ending. Every smile, every laugh, every casual conversation with Ethan or Claire was just another scene in a play I was directing. They thought they were clever. They thought I was clueless. But what they didn't realize was that I had already stepped out of the role of victim. I was the director, the writer. And soon, the executioner of their downfall. I started small. Subtle psychological nudges. One evening, I accidentally left my laptop open on the kitchen counter while Ethan walked by. On the screen was a fake email draft titled, "Divorce Lawyer Consultation, Confidential." His face froze for a second, his jaw tightening. Before he quickly masked it with a casual question, "Hey, what's this? Are you thinking of something?" I smiled sweetly. "Oh, just research for a friend." Don't worry, the seed was planted. That night, I noticed him texting under the covers when he thought I was asleep. My guess? Warning Claire. Perfect. Let the paranoia grow. With Claire, I played a different game. I began complimenting her excessively in public, hyping her up at gatherings, telling friends how loyal and trustworthy she was. The more I painted her as flawless, the more pressure I put on her to keep up the act. And under pressure, people slip. And she did. One afternoon, I asked her to help me organize some boxes in the garage. As we lifted one together, her phone buzzed. Reflexively, she reached for it. But I caught the name glowing on her screen, Ethan. Our eyes met. Just for a second. Her smile faltered. My heart should have cracked. But instead, I felt a thrill. A dark satisfaction. She was crumbling. Everything okay? I asked innocently. She nodded too quickly. Yeah, just a spam text. Sure it was. I let it go, pretending to believe her. Because the more she thought she was fooling me, the sloppier she'd become. Meanwhile, my collection of evidence grew. Audio recordings, subtle photos, text message screenshots I had carefully mirrored through Ethan's synced devices. Each piece was another brick in the fortress I was building against them. But evidence wasn't enough. Exposure wasn't just about proving betrayal, it was about spectacle. About ensuring their lies collapsed in front of everyone they cared about. That's when I devised the plan for the ultimate reveal. Ethan's birthday was coming up. Every year, we'd host a dinner with close friends and family. This year, I decided, would be unforgettable. I booked a private dining room at his favorite restaurant. Sent out invites to his parents, coworkers, even a few of Claire's relatives. Everyone important would be there. And then, behind the scenes, I prepared the final weapon, a compilation video. Using all the evidence I had gathered, the car audio where they kissed, the text screenshots, even the subtle footage from our dinner, I stitched together a chilling narrative. Not just proof, but a story of betrayal layered with timestamps and undeniable facts. The night before the dinner, I stayed up late editing. My hands trembled, not with doubt, but with adrenaline. When I watched the finished video, I didn't see myself as the wounded partner anymore. I saw myself as a storm, calm, patient, and about to unleash destruction. The day of the dinner arrived. Ethan dressed up in the suit I had bought him last year, completely unaware that it might be the last gift he ever wore from me. Claire showed up too, smiling that fake smile, hugging me like I was her sister. And as I looked around the table, at all the people who thought they were here to celebrate Ethan's birthday, I felt an almost eerie calm settle over me. They thought tonight was about him, but tonight was about me. And when the cake arrived, candles glowing, and everyone gathered to sing, I held the remote in my hand, ready to press play. The lights dimmed as the restaurant staff wheeled out the cake, candles flickering in the dark. Everyone sang the birthday song, clapping and laughing, their voices rising in cheerful harmony. Ethan beamed, soaking in the moment. Claire sat beside him, her hand casually brushing against his arm under the table, thinking no one noticed. But I noticed. I stood at the end of the table, smiling wider than I had in months. My pulse throbbed in my ears, not from nerves, but from anticipation. In my pocket was the tiny remote for the projector I'd arranged earlier, under the guise of showing a fun little surprise video. Before we cut the cake, I said, raising my glass, I thought it would be nice to share a little something. A collection of memories, the story of us. Everyone clapped. Ethan gave me a look, half touched, half embarrassed. Babe, you didn't have to. Oh, but I did. I pressed the button. The screen lit up behind me. At first, soft music played over sweet photos, our wedding picture, a vacation at the beach, smiling dinners with friends. The crowd sighed warmly. Ethan leaned back, smiling smugly, clearly basking in the attention. But then, the tone shifted. The music slowed. Darker, heavier. A photo of Ethan's car appeared, time-stamped. Then, the first audio clip, muffled laughter, followed by a kiss. Ethan's voice whispering, God, I can't stop thinking about you. The room went still. A new slide appeared, screenshots of text messages. Ethan, last night was perfect. I'll make up an excuse to see you again. Claire, I can't wait. She'll never know. Gasps rippled across the table. I didn't look at them, I didn't need to. I could feel Ethan's panic, Claire's face draining of color. The video rolled on. The hidden recordings, the dinner photos with their stolen glances, every piece of evidence stitched together in undeniable clarity. By the time it ended, the room was suffocating with silence. I finally turned. Ethan's face was ashen, his mouth opening but no words forming. Claire's hands shook as she reached for a glass of water, nearly knocking it over. Happy birthday, I said softly, my voice sharp enough to cut glass. Ethan stammered, It's not what it looks like, oh really? I snapped, my calm demeanor shattering into controlled fury. Because to me, it looks like betrayal. It looks like the two people I trusted most decided my love, my loyalty, my life was a joke. His parents stared at him in horror. One of his coworkers muttered something under their breath. Claire's relatives shifted uncomfortably, unable to meet my eyes. Claire finally whispered, please, let me explain. I laughed bitterly. What's left to explain? You called yourself my best friend. You were supposed to protect me, not sleep with the man I married. Her tears spilled. Ethan reached for me, but I pulled back. "This is the last time you'll ever touch me," I said coldly. And with that, I set my wedding ring down on the table, loud enough for the entire room to hear the metallic clink. The silence broke. People began murmuring, whispering, glaring at Ethan and Claire. His parents excused themselves, ashamed. A coworker actually muttered, "What a pig." I walked toward the door, head held high, each step echoing like a drumbeat of liberation. Just before I left, I turned back one last time. "You both thought you were clever," I said. "But the truth always comes out." And tonight, it came out in front of everyone. Then I walked out. The night air was cold, sharp against my skin. But for the first time in months, I breathed freely. My chest felt lighter, my hands steadier. Behind me, chaos erupted inside that restaurant, but it was no longer my chaos. It was theirs. I didn't just expose them.